Well, I hope everybody is doing well. Now, bear in mind, this is the first time I'm doing a informational video using a GoPro Hero. So please bear with me. It's gonna be a little touchy, okay? Now, one of the things about the book that we're reading with Gary Paulson, The River, is that we know that Derek Holzer is a psychologist, and he's going up into the wilds of Canada with 15-year-old Brian Robeson for a survival science experiment. You know, there's all kinds of books about survival. You can go to Barnes & Noble or go online, you can find thousands of them. A lot of people wrote them. But they wanted to find out more about, oh, and I think we have a guest. You behave or you're getting locked up. You're going to lockup if you don't behave. Well, anyways, what can you do? All right. Anyways, one of the things is the mental aspect of survival. A lot of the physical aspects you can get over, and if you have the right equipment, it's not that difficult to do. But it's the mental aspect. I've said it before, where, back in World War II, when a lot of ships were sunk by both the German and Japanese Navy, the U.S. Navy looked into, how did people survive? Who survived? And they found out that the older sailors tended to survive better, like in a shipwreck situation, than the younger ones. And they figured it was due to age and mental toughness. The younger ones just kind of gave up, even though technically they had a greater amount of, strength and vitality, and they were stronger, et cetera, but they were the ones that generally went first. It was like the older, experienced sailors that kind of lasted. Okay? Now, as we know, hey, you behave or you're getting locked up. All right? As we know, all right, in the experiment, Brian, okay, knock it off. And we got another guy here. Okay, we do know that in chapter 5 and chapter 6, there was a decision made, and the decision was to take most of the survival gear back with the float plane. So they only basically had come on, go up on the couch. I know, it's more entertaining down here. So instead of having anything for survival as a kit, they just had like a couple of folding knives on their belts and the clothes on their back. They did keep the radio for communication in case there was a real emergency, because they wanted to make it more real. Having all this stuff didn't make it real, because when Brian was in the wilderness, he just had the clothes on his back, a few things in his pocket, and thank God he had some kind of cutting instrument like a hatchet. Okay, so why don't we start what I usually carry? Now I just want to point a couple things out. I don't always, when I'm out in the wild, sometimes I just go with a few things in my pocket and whatnot, but if I know I'm going into any areas for the whole day, or for any length of time, or if I know I'm going into a much wild area, I will take a day pack with me and put a few things in it, okay? Depending on the time of year. During the summertime, this is a hydration pack. I don't have it in here, but there's actually a space for a water bladder, and there's a little hose that comes out. I can drink water. It holds like 1.5 liters of water, okay? You need water. I mean, there's water everywhere, but it's not always good to drink, okay? So generally, this is like my summertime pack, and it's it's made out of Cordura nylon. I got it at a place called Runnings. It's a combination farm and sports store. All right, probably something that a lot of you guys don't go to, but it is what it is. All right, so this is what I'll wear in the summertime. Now, come fall or spring, you all know I love to hunt. So in the fall, during September, October, November, when I go hunting with the bow and arrow for deer, or also if there's a chance at a turkey, I'm going to take this thing here. This is a camouflage fleece day pack. I've had it for well over 25 years. All right, and then I also wear that in the springtime when I go spring turkey hunting. Like right now, after I'm done with this, I'll put my turkey hunting stuff in there, and then I'm gonna head, like on Saturday, I'm gonna go out in the morning really early. I'm gonna get up at 3 a.m. so I can get out in the woods at 4:30 and wait for a nice juicy bird, because this Saturday is the last day, and for some reason a bird with a brain the size of an acorn is outsmarting me, and it's irritating me. So, and then during the firearm season, most states have laws where you have to have hunter orange. Now this isn't quite hunter orange, but it does stand out, okay? And this is another fleece pack, and I'll put my like day-to-day stuff in this during the month of December. And if I hunt, say, a place like Rhode Island muzzleloader, it'll be for the month of November as well. Oh, and we got our visitor back. Yeah. Hey. Okay. Now, we all know that Brian had some cutting instruments. All right. Now, generally speaking, one of the better ones to have is. Yes. Can I help you? Okay. Make like a tree and leave. Wait, I forgot he's deaf. He can't hear. Okay. Anyways, there's a lot of stuff on the internet, a lot of information, and a lot of misinformation on the internet. You don't need a huge knife, all right? Something like this. This is a Mora Light My Fire knife. All right? It's got a simple blade that's a little less than 4 inches. So in most places, it's not going to be a big problem. And it's got what is called a Scandi grind. It's nice flat grind, so it's primarily used for what is called bushcrafting. You can make things out of wood. You can make like spoons and forks and all kinds of things. And hey, oh, methinks you're going in lockup for a while. And it's what's kind of the neat thing about it is in the back of it, it has a little fire steel, so I can flip the pommel over, pull this ferrocerium rod out, and with the back of the blade, I have the means of starting a fire. This is like really kind of a neat thing. I kind of like this. If I'm going into a heavy area, like a very deep wilderness area, I might want to take something a little bit heavier because I can use this to actually cut through brush. This is an SE 6-inch, Rowan. All right, it's U.S. made, heavy. It's got a flat grind, easy to sharpen. I've taken it hunting pigs down in Florida. All right, it works out very well. Often another thing that people do have in their survival kit, or at least on their person, is what is called a multi-tool. And this is a Leatherman. This is a Leatherman Sidekick. Has all kinds of tools in it. You flip it open. You got a pair of pliers and wire cutters. It can be very useful, especially like you're in the desert area. You can pull out those nasty cactus quills. And it also has, different attachments inside of it here. All right. All right, I got a little saw. I also have, on the other side, a little lock back blade that I can use. It's not a big blade, but it's enough to do some basic cutting. Okay. I can flip this open and I can push out some other attachments that are handy. Okay, believe it or not. A can opener, a bottle opener, a file, and it's also got like a little serrated blade here. In addition, I can flip the other side, push this out, and I got some other attachments. I got like a nice little, I got basically a Phillips head screwdriver attachment, okay? And I also got a flathead attachment. So it's kind of like a very useful tool. I kind of use it quite often. Another thing that kind of comes in handy for the cutting instruments, it's a nice folding saw. This is a Fiskars. It's easier to actually, hatchets and axes are great, but sometimes they do take a lot of strength out of you. It's very easy to just cut with a saw. Yeah, this is not a toy. Dum-dum. Oh, what is your issue today? Okay. Now, when it comes to hatchets, I didn't take the other one out, but a good friend of mine was in the Special Forces, and he actually gave this to me. He actually carried this in Afghanistan. This is a Schrade Spax, okay? And believe it or not, it's kind of like a multi-tool. You got a cutting edge here, and you got this spike. This here actually can fit the the nut on a gas pipe to shut natural or propane gas off. This is actually used on the president's and vice president's helicopters as an emergency tool. I kind of find it very bulky to carry out in the woods. Okay, so I have it, but I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't played around with it out in the woods all that much. In addition, this is something I've had. Of course, it has a different handle on it. This is a tomahawk. I've had this since I was a kid. I was about 14 years old down in Pennsylvania, and my dad bought me this. It was hand forged, and I can actually throw with it. This was actually a very useful tool. It was a fighting tool back in its day. You know, when you shot your gun and then, you know, you had that one shot and it would take you maybe 30 seconds or more to reload, this was your backup, all right? Now, you can cut with it, it's pretty good, but the thing is, it tends, because of the round handle, it tends to swivel in your hand quite a bit, and it's a little ungainly. But it's okay, you can do some light chopping, but it's more for fun, in my opinion, for throwing, okay? So anyways, getting back to what we're talking about, all right? Now, where Brian and Derek are heading in Canada, one of the things that they're gonna have to deal with is mosquitoes and black flies, and also what they call moose flies. They're basically horse flies, but they go after moose. Well, actually, they go after anything. So how do you keep them away? Now, one of the greatest things since sliced bread, okay, in my opinion, is if I was going on such a trip, I would make sure I would have one of these things. It's a head net, okay? And the way you wear it is you kind of do one of these. Oh, you can hear the other one crying. You can put this over your head, and it'll at least keep the bugs off of your face. And it may look a little dippy. If you wear a hat under it, it kind of keeps it away from your skin. It's what it's going to do, it's going to preserve your sanity, because the insects in the far north during the summertime are intense, and that's a nice way of putting it. They literally cover you. I've been to Alaska in the summertime, and even on the coast where the mosquitoes are not as bad, they're bad. And when you go inland, they cover you. You look like a poppy seed bagel with the insects just covering you. And it's just a fact of life. So what you do is you wear a net. Now, another thing that we have around here, deer flies. I like to put these things on. It's a little patch you can put on the back of your hat. And what it does is deer flies, they tend to fly around your head. When they land on it, they get stuck. It's not unusual to have 30 or 40 of them stuck there. Better them to stick there than to have to deal with it. Now, I know I'm getting kind of bulky here. This is a thing called the thermocell. They've been around for about 10 years or so. And what it is that you can take this cartridge out and you put it in here. There's a butane canister in it. You turn it on, ignite it, and what it does is for like about maybe 8 to 10 hours, it gives off fumes in about a 10-foot radius that keeps insects away. Greatest thing in the world. But it is a little bit bulky. It's not heavy, but it takes up space. Most of the time, this is what I use for hunting, but as far as like, quote, survival stuff, I'm probably not going to have it. Now, getting back to the survival stuff here, all right? One of the things in Brian, in the story, The River, they wanted to do two things. Number one, they wanted to make a fire. And number two, they wanted to get shelter. Either one is interchangeable. They basically wanted to get out of the clouds of insects, and there are ways of making shelter in the far north to keep bugs out. And I'm going to do something about that. Now, when it comes to fire, remember Brian discovered fire when he took his hatchet and hit a rock. Now, this is a piece of Texas flint, all right? Now, this hatchet, this is where I sometimes wonder if Gary Paulson didn't do some ballistic, didn't do some artistic license, okay? Now, according to that, he was able to take a rock and was able to get a spark. So far, I'm just getting chips. Well, that's because this hatchet head is actually, by steel standards, is quite soft. It has to be to take the impact. So you have to have hard carbon steel. This is stainless. This knife I'm not going to ruin with hitting it with a piece of flint. So that's something that I want to experiment a little bit. I tried my other hatchet and it did nothing because I suspect that the steel is very soft. Okay. Now, flint and steel is a way of making fire. He discovered it by accident, and he just happened to have the right type of hatchet where it had a high carbon, hard steel to generate a spark. Now, there are a lot easier ways. One, ferrocerium. Okay? This one here is, well, it's Coughlin's. They're a Canadian company. They give you this little striker, and you know, you can make some sparks onto a little nest of tinder and start a fire. The easiest way, of course, is, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it, one of these little tiny Bic lighters. They don't take up much space and they work well. Now, worst comes to worst, if this all gets wet, it may not work, except for the fire. You know, I like to have 3 means of starting a fire. What I'll do is I will take out, this is called the match safe, and in here, I have some special matches. They're called hurricane matches or lifeboat matches. Originally, they were made in England. They have these gigantic heads so that they burn like a torch. And they'll even burn underwater, believe it or not. Let's hope the smoke detector doesn't go off. I didn't even think of that. But you can see, you know, this will give you plenty of time to start a fire. Okay. Just going to put that off to the side where it won't cause any harm. And this is aluminum with a rubber seal. I'm going to put it in the match in this empty metal container so it won't start a fire or anything. Okay. Now, back to the knife thing. Knives get dull. One of the best things in the world that I always make sure I have